man at the center of all this is Governor Jay Nixon. He had a press conference a little while ago after the event where he signed into law this new commission. Starting at the press conference, I asked him a two-part question about the days ahead here in St. Louis.
What's your message to those in the community who will be unhappy with whatever the grand jury decides? What's your message to how they should absorb a decision that surprises them and maybe upsets them? And second, give you a second chance to answer the question, does the buck stop with you in handling this crisis?
Well, I mean, first of all, we are saying to everyone that the dual pillars we have of speech and safety are out there, and that people should hopefully be peaceful. We are working extremely hard to make sure that there are broad range of opportunities for people to speak, regardless of their positions on these issues, and we feel strongly that those opportunities can be played out in the next few days, next few weeks, or whatever the time frame is. Now, as far as the buck, I mean, your governor, the buck always stops with me.
My question to the governor about the buck stopping with him was based on yesterday when he did a telephone press conference and was asked a couple times about where the buck stopped with him, and he didn't give as straightforward an answer. A lot of the follow-up questions after mine came from African-American reporters from different types of news organizations, some quite passionate, saying that they felt that the governor was bouncing too much in the direction of security, not enough in terms of individual rights or the right to protest. Here's one of the governor's answers to a pretty emotional question.
Well, I'm not preparing for war. I'm preparing for peace. I'm preparing for order and peace. And our goal here is to have peace, to maintain peace, and to work as we have over the last 100 days.
After the press conference ended, I wanted to ask the governor one last question about what his fingertip feel was for what's going to happen after the grand jury decision is rendered.
Can I assess your fingertip feel for how you think, as a politician, you think things are on track or go well, or are you a little worried?
We're preparing, and we feel that the last 100 days has helped us get a lot more information that allowed that reaction to be positive.
Thank you, Governor.
So he's not always the most articulate leader, but he is very much of this state. My question to you is, based on today, based on his performance throughout, does he seem to be rising to the occasion here?
Well, I can say one thing. He was a lot better today than he was yesterday. And that answer to that emotional question about war, to say I'm not preparing for war, I'm preparing for peace, is a very nice line. I don't know whether he rehearsed it or whether he was waiting for that question, but it was very strong. Last night he was not so strong, and he was certainly not very strong back in the time when the Ferguson disorder erupted back in August. But he seems to have learned lessons, and that's one of the things that they get what that stuff went wrong, and he seems to have learned, and that's a huge important capacity that every real leader has to have.
His rhetoric in the press conference and in the ceremony where he signed into law this commission was really impressive. The balance between the rights, the different points of view in the community, the plurality of voices. And I have to say again, this commission, I don't know these people, right, but he read their bios. Yeah. This is an incredibly impressive group. Yeah. Broad range, and the governor's focus, again, this is the longer term, not the events coming this week when we expect a decision probably by the end of this week from the grand jury, but longer term looking at education, looking at jobs, looking at community relations, the makeup of the government, the makeup of the police force, a holistic look, and the backgrounds of these people, really impressive. So this is a guy who's been in public life a long time. Yeah. I've never seen him as good as he was today.
It's important to remember also that, as much as we focus on the governor, there are a lot of people, they've got a responsibility in a lot of different places here. There is a mayor in Ferguson. There's a police chief in Ferguson. There is St. Louis. There are a lot of places. If this is going to work here, it's not just going to be all on the governor, whether it succeeds or fails. He's got responsibility for certain things, but there are other people who are all going to have to come together if there are protests. Is to try. Everyone's going to have to come together and work as a big team.
And part of why he had trouble last night, and even to some extent today after he says the buck stops with me, part of why he has trouble saying that is an admirable thing in the sense that he shares that exact view. There's a shared responsibility. He doesn't want to have the whole thing on his back because he thinks the voices should be heard. He was asked, look, you've lived here your whole life. Why can't you just decide? Why do you need a commission? And he said they've got different experiences, different voices. I think it's really strong and a good balance. And this is going to be a hard thing for him. And as you said, he wasn't so great every step of the way. He's probably been criticized as much as anybody. But I think he's got a pretty good control over what's happening right now.
And it was a pretty hard situation, pretty much unprecedented. Not a lot of people have had to deal with what we had to deal with in August. All right.